From being arrested to causing mass chaos, there has been no other genre of music that has been at the center of more controversy than hip-hop, so today, we are going to be looking at the 10 most controversial rap albums ever. Now, when it comes to hip-hop, considering all of the walls that the genre has broken down in the music industry, it's really no surprise that an art form so boundary-pushing has been at the center of so much controversy over the years. With so many records that directly challenge freedom of speech rights between their eye-opening stories, shocking covers, or just straight-up insane themes, the albums we are about to look at didn't just cause public outcry, but they ended up changing the way the world looked at music forever. So if you are ready to look at the most provocative hip-hop albums ever released, let's waste no time, and without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, kicking off this list, we got Tyler the Creator's debut album Goblin, and while today, Tyler may be one of the most beloved rappers in the game, he was public enemy #1 at the time he released this album because the record did just about everything that could possibly cause mass hysteria. From the whopping 218 homophobic slurs said on the album, to being accused of promoting the devil, to doing such insane things as eating a living cockroach in the music video for the album's lead single Yonkers, Goblin wasn't just scrutinized for all of the madness that it built its identity through, but the record ended up also being a large part of the reason why Tyler the Creator got in trouble with the law. In the following years after the release of this album, as Tyler began to assert himself as a true star in the rap world, countries like the UK and New Zealand ended up banning him from their countries as a whole because of the things that he said on this very project. Goblin scared governments into thinking that Tyler the Creator was a threat to public order and that his music could be responsible for riots, and this is just insane. While Goblin is an album that's identity only exists through all the controversy and obscenity that is embedded in the lyrics and in the eeriness of the production, putting things into perspective, even on the record itself, Tyler makes it very clear that this was always a fictional portrayal of a character and that the album did not represent his personal beliefs. At the end of the day, this is why, despite all the problems this record stirred up, it's still this low on the list, as other rappers and hip-hop fans all knew that Tyler was rapping from the perspective of his alter ego and that he did not truly believe in the things he was saying, and this is why later on, nobody really ever tried to hold what Tyler did on this album against him as he became one of the biggest stars in the world, because at the end of the day, it was all performative. So overall, while Goblin definitely stirred up a lot of controversies and showed us just how afraid the world can be of rap music, because this album was always treated as more of a joke to anybody in the know, it's only at number 10 on this list. Now, coming in at number 9, we got the final album that Tupac made when he was alive, and the first one that released posthumously with the 7-Day Theory. And while Tupac's free thinking and activism put his powerful beliefs at the center of a lot of debates in the mid-90s, this was the work of his that stirred up the most controversy, and for a variety of reasons at that. Now, while some albums are deemed threats to the public because of what the artists are actually talking about and depicting in the music, 7-Day Theory gained a lot of its controversy from the album cover itself, which depicted Tupac being crucified on the cross in a manner very similar to Jesus Christ. Now, with any scare related to religion always being a talking point heavily focused on by the media, having a rapper who is as popular as Tupac in an image like this put a lot of negativity around his name, even despite the fact that on the cover it is stated by Pac himself that this expression is in no way trying to disrespect Jesus. Now, outside of these allegations, with this album coming out just months after the passing of Tupac, more controversy was created from this album, as it made some people believe that this was Tupac's way of telling us that he had faked his own death. Now, to this very day, we hear theories that Tupac is in Cuba and that he never actually passed away, and a lot of these ideas all stemmed from the lyrics and messaging on this record that people tried to slam together to mean something. And putting the cherry on top of this theory, people also began to accuse Tupac of having affiliation with the Illuminati because of the album's full name, the Don Illuminati, the 7-Day Theory. Now, while some people thought that they figured out that Tupac faked his own death, tried to make himself out to be Jesus, and was in the Illuminati all along with this album, since Tupac completed this record and was awaiting to release it before his passing, he actually talked about the album before his passing and spoke about its meaning, saying this: "People is telling me about this Illuminati while I'm in jail. That's another way to keep your self-esteem low. That's another way to keep you unconfident. I'm putting the K in front because I'm killing that Illuminati, trust me." And with this quote, you can see how with conspiracy theories and controversies, people love to look at half of what they see and formulate their own ideas, run loose with them, and because of all the speculation this album started and all the insane theories that for some reason people still believe to this day, regardless of everything that was deemed provocative on this record being misunderstood or proven to be untrue at this point, the 7 Day Theory still remains as one of the most controversial rap albums of all time for the absolute storm of reactions and theories that are still affecting the way people think about Pac to this day. Now, coming in at number 8, we got another album that's controversy originated from a religious scare, but this time in a much stranger way with Lil Nas X's debut record, Montero. Now, when it comes to Lil Nas X, while he doesn't fit the mold of a traditional rapper, this has always been by his design because for most of his career, he has carefully planned out controversial stunts to find success in an era where things need to be as outlandish as humanly possible to ever get attention. So when releasing his debut album Montero, Lil Nas X carefully planned out every phase of the project's rollout to feature one controversial stunt after another. Now, the album's self-titled track Montero created more than enough controversy when Lil Nas X portrayed himself giving a lap dance to the devil, and if you think this wasn't enough, he also sold shoes with satanic imagery and even a drop of blood in them, and from here, Nas X received backlash that would change his career forever. From politicians, rappers, major news outlets, and even churches. This song received so much scrutiny that it was almost pulled off streaming services, and despite this, as the rollout continued, Lil Nas X only doubled down on the controversy as he continued to market the record in a nature that would continue to aggravate mass audiences. Whether it was the music video for the Kanye West produced Industry Baby, or X getting pregnant and then giving birth to the album on the day it was released, or even the cover of the record itself. Because of the provocative nature in everything that Lil Nas X did. After all this, Montero was being accused of trying to corrupt the minds of his considerably young and impressionable fan base that he had amassed from blowing up on platforms like TikTok with Old Town Road before all this. Now, while people accuse Lil Nas X of trying to push agendas and corrupt minds, he defended the album, ultimately saying that as a person who struggled with his sexual identity for his entire life, all he was trying to do is make people in similar situations feel more comfortable with themselves. So overall, when we look at Montero, this is a record that firsthand displays how artistic intention and public perception can end up clashing with one another, and for all these reasons, it secured a spot on this list. Now, coming in at number 7, we got an album that pushes obscenity to the max with experimental hip-hop trio Death Grips and their project No Love Deep Web, and while Death Grips has always been known for being one of the most out there sounding hip-hop acts to ever exist, with this record, it's controversial not because it sounds or says anything more insane than the group usually does, but purely because of the album cover, which is literally illegal for some people to look at, and if you look at the artwork, I think you can see why. This is an album that you never want to get caught listening to on your phone because this is really just one of the most insane and out there covers that you could ever draw up to represent an album. If you can even find No Love Deep Web in a store, it is sold with a black cover that blocks the entire artwork from being seen, and it is only revealed after you peel it off, so whatever you do not rip this covering off in a record store because a lot of places can lose their vendor's license for even displaying the graphic image that group member Zach Hill decided to take while he was in the shower. So overall, while some of these albums have long and extensive controversial pasts, I don't think I have to explain this one anymore, you get why it's here. Now, coming in at number 6, we got Kanye West and Ty Dolla $ign's collab album Volturus 1, and while the record outside of some odd lyrics from Kanye is pretty controversy-free, what's made the sheer existence of this record so problematic is all the personal drama that Kanye created prior to the record's release. Now, we all remember the absolute disaster of interviews and statements that Kanye made at the end of 2022, and after his net worth shrunk by billions and he seemed to go into hiding for most of 2023, Ye returned in full force in 2024 with an entire new album, and the response couldn't have been crazier. From renowned artists standing by Kanye and supporting him, to others who called Ye out and cut off any affiliation and former support that they had for him because of what he has said in the past. Volturus has created an absolute storm on the internet as people have debated if it's okay to enjoy an artist's music despite their personal actions. Now, as anybody who has been on the internet knows since this album has dropped, Volturus 1 has already been one of the most polarizing releases in hip-hop recently, and I think that as time goes on, this record will be at the center of the debate regarding separating music people enjoy from the creators and their own actions, and for this reason, it's number 6 on this list. Now, crack in the top 5. We are now looking at albums that redefine just how crazy music controversies can be, and in this spot, we got Public Enemy's 1990 album, Fear of a Black Planet, and from the socially conscious themes that sent shockwaves to the entire world to some of the personal ideology of a certain group member that ended up damaging the entire group's image. This album was a landmark release in not just hip-hop, but in culture for so many reasons. Tracks off this album like 911 is a Joke, Burn Hollywood Burn, and of course Fight the Power shocked the rap world and beyond, as during a time where hip-hop was starting to become more commercial and mindless, Public Enemy redefined just how strong of a tool rap music can be to express frustration with societal issues, and while this record got praise for speaking out against injustice, it also received scrutiny from the media and the public for expressing distrust and resentment towards law enforcement and government officials. Now, while these sentiments alone framed Public Enemy as threats to order in the mainstream media, this album became all the more controversial when group member Professor Griff, to sum it up shortly, went down the same path we saw Kanye follow in 2022. And this created even more problems for Public Enemy as Griff's views began to contort the image of the album from being seen as music that wasn't just trying to express the need for the world to change for the better, but it was now being seen as music that wanted the entire world to burn. While Public Enemy ultimately kicked out Professor Griff as his problematic views did not align with the overarching messaging of the group or the album, between the album's themes that challenged so much of what was accepted in music and the bad press surrounding it, Fear of a Black Planet became one of the most controversial records ever, but for this reason. While it was seen as so problematic, it also ended up becoming one of the most important rap albums of its time. Now, cracking the Mount Rushmore of controversial albums, we got Eminem's Slim Shady LP, and at number 3 we got the Marshall Mathers LP, and I'm gonna talk about these two records at the same time because all of the controversy that they created really built directly on one another. So when it comes to Eminem, we all know that he is a one-of-a-kind force in the rap world, and this was never more true than when he first made it onto the scene. From being a white guy with bleached hair to having some of the most insane lyrics that rap has ever seen till this very day. With everything that Eminem did, he was so different than everything else that rap had to offer, and between his first and second major label albums. Because of this, he sparked up more controversy than you could humanly imagine. Now, another one of the reasons why Tyler the Creator's Goblin was only number 10 on this list was because despite how crazy that album was, Eminem made an even crazier record in the same vein with the Slim Shady LP, which did about every provocative thing in the book, and when we look at the most controversial albums of all time, both the Slim Shady and Marshall Mathers LPs were like the Thanos of them all, taking every known aspect that made music controversial as a whole and put them all into this one unmovable and culture-changing storm. Now, when we look at the Slim Shady LP, Eminem's debut to the world turned heads everywhere as the dark lyrics mixed with his twisted sense of humor frightened people just as much as it entertained others. From promoting violence to literally making a song where he dumps his girlfriend in the ocean, the Slim Shady LP made national headlines for its problematic lyrics, and considering the star that Eminem was turning out to be at this point, while there were controversial artists before him, there really wasn't anybody since Elvis that media outlets and lawmakers were more worried about when it came to corrupting the minds of the youth. Now, while the Slim Shady LP's horrifying sense of humor sent fear waves into the world, Eminem's follow-up, which dropped not even a full year after the Marshall Mathers LP, made things even crazier as M didn't just double down on the controversy, but he clapped back and called out the hypocrisy of his haters and society, all while going in a much more personal and dark direction. From rapping about how his music can't be blamed for violence and problems in the US any more than violent films, abusive parents, and problematic laws, to tracks that depicted the themes that made the Slim Shady LP such a target of ridicule in the first place and made them even more insane and disturbing. The Marshall Mathers LP set the entire world on fire as it challenged everything that pop culture and in the greater sense society stood for at the time. Now, with 2 albums filled with some of the most insane lyrics ever written by a human being, Eminem wasn't just making parents and the media afraid of him, but entire nations like Canada wanted Eminem to be banned from their country as a whole. Now, what's so interesting about these albums is that despite all the controversy and backlash, while some artists' careers on this list were hurt by all the negativity they faced, Eminem was able to reach new levels of success, and I really think that these records specifically show how getting bad press and backlash from the media and worried parents can end up rallying more fans behind you and end up actually benefiting your career in the long run better than anything else has. So overall, while the Slim Shady and Marshall Mathers LP brought artistic obscenity to a level that the world never saw before, overall, all of the controversy these albums face only helped them stand even taller as two of the most iconic records of all time. Now, coming in as the second most controversial album of all time, we got As Nasty As They Wanna Be by 2 Live Crew, and while all of the other albums on this list have had some pretty crazy effects on the rap world, none have changed not just the genre, but free speech as a whole more than this. Now, just from the album cover, you can tell that audiences in 1989 were not ready for the nature of this record, and this didn't just result in some media frenzy, but it actually ended up getting multiple people, including group members, arrested. This entire album's themes and subject matter followed in the lead single's nature, and because of this and all of the success that the record was seeing both with sales and radio play in the group's home state of Florida, the album raised a lot of concerns around its subject matter, and specifically, this caused attorney Jack Thompson to work with the Florida government to see if the album's obscene themes were actually considered illegal to sell or perform, and after Florida determined that it was. Other states also deemed this album to be illegal, and from here, everything got absolutely insane for the 2 Live Crew. Just to put into perspective how problematic this album was, a record store owner ended up getting arrested for selling a copy of the album to an undercover cop, and eventually group members were also arrested for performing songs from the project as well. Now, while ultimately the group was acquitted by a jury eventually, the fact that they were in trouble with the law for making an album that was glorifying the type of relations that they wanted to have with women in a way that was always run-of-the-mill in genres like rock and is casual in rap today is just insane to look back on. This album ended up being so chaotic that it actually created the parental advisory sticker as well, which would debut on the group's second album with the fitting title of Banned in the USA. So overall, with that As Nasty As They Wanna Be and what 2 Live Crew had to go through, who knows what hip-hop would look like today? This group of guys who thought with their pants completely changed what free speech in rap music and in modern media as a whole looks like, and for this reason, you really can't thank them enough. And coming in at number 1, as the most controversial rap album of all time, we got Straight Outta Compton by N.W.A, and while every other album on this list has caused outcry of some sort, none of the controversy they caused was more important than what Ice Cube, Eazy-E, Dr. Dre, and the rest of the crew caused on their legendary 1988 album. Now, when it comes to the significance of Straight Outta Compton, when we look at all of the backlash and actually bans that this album got from receiving proper promotion and radio play, this LP showed the world a new side of not just music, but reality as a whole. Songs like Straight Outta Compton and F the Police opened up people's eyes to what was going on outside of their own reality. And while the intense way this was conveyed made the media paint N.W.A as threats who were attacking the world and its established institutions, as time has gone on, everything this album did has only proved to be more important with each passing year. While other albums on this list fought for obscenity and shock value, Straight Outta Compton fought for the power and truthfulness of art as they created a body of work that addressed not just the realities the group members faced in their hometown of Compton, but also made sure they could express their truths with the force and intensity that such pressing issues needed to be addressed with, and to get this across, they had to work through obstacles that would have destroyed most other artists' careers. Now, on top of receiving no promotional support from the music industry, the FBI ended up threatening N.W.A and giving them an entire warning letter after the album was released, and following this, many police officers refused to work their shows, which led to them being unable to play just about anywhere. Rapping about life on the street and all of the risk and danger it comes with may have not been the most enjoyable thing for mainstream audiences to hear in an era where most popular rap music was all about partying and having fun. And this was definitely one of the reasons why what seemed like everyone tried so hard to destroy this album from ever gaining popularity, but ultimately, this LP fought through all of the controversy and backlash to forever cement consciousness as a quintessential part of hip-hop culture. So all in all, when it comes to Straight Outta Compton, this album served as the foundation that would ultimately build up arguably hip-hop's most important subgenres ever with gangsta rap and conscious hip-hop, and for the fact that it had to fight through a storm of backlash that would have crippled most other artists' careers. it is forever cemented as not just the most controversial rap album of all time, but also the most important. And there you have it, there are the 10 most controversial albums of all time, and let me know if I missed anything in the comments. As you can see, a lot of these albums, despite how groundbreaking or just insane they were, despite receiving so much backlash, usually endured through the obstacles they faced to ultimately make not just rap or the music industry, but overall the world a place where more voices than ever can be heard. So all in all, today what we can see from these records and the controversy they faced is that while some ideas can seem too radical or polarizing, it's important to give all artists a fair chance to express themselves. Now, speaking of controversial albums, if you want to hear my specific thoughts on Kanye's Volturus album, check out the suggested video.